Hello friends, we are back, and it's been a long time since I've put anything out, but today's a special day. Today, my son Gage and I are in Gettysburg. We came up to visit DC and made about an hour and a half drive up north into Pennsylvania to see Gettysburg. Something on our bucket list that we both want to do for a while. Here's Gage. And we just got off a bus tour that took us around the whole battlefield that lasted 3 days here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to get in our car, and you can do a self-guided tour. We're going to take that self-guided tour and take you along with us this time and show you some of the really cool stuff we've seen. To say this is hallowed ground that's really an understatement. So hope you enjoy this little walk through history, and we're going to show you some of the really interesting and haunting things that we found. Come along. Alright, first quick stop here. We're at the Jenny Wade House Museum. That statue out front is of Jenny Wade. And Jenny Wade was the only civilian killed at Gettysburg. It was said that on day 3 of the battle, she was cooking biscuits for the soldiers of the Union Army, and a stray bullet came through her door and hit her in the back. Only civilian killed in the Battle of Gettysburg. Alright, as you drive through Gettysburg, you'll notice some of the buildings still have plaques on them, or have plaques on them that indicate the building was here when the battle was fought. This one being the Farnsworth House, and we're going to walk up to the house because you can see on the side it still has bullet holes in the side of the house from the battle. This would have been at the kind of edge of town before you got out into the fields. So we're going to walk through here. And it's actually an inn now, so you can stay here. And that's the main road that goes through town right there. But then, if you look right up here, right up there, you can see bullet holes from the fighting that went on here in Gettysburg. It's just an incredible piece of history right there. And then if you look across the street, we're going to zoom in a little bit, but that plaque right there by the door, that's what's on the buildings to indicate that they were here during the battle. A really cool town. If you get a chance to come by here, it's a definite must do. What a cool part of history right there. Okay, so one of the stops we made on the guided tour was the monument you see right there, right behind me. And it's called the what, Gage?
Eternal Light Peace Memorial.
The Eternal Light Peace Memorial. It was dedicated by Franklin Delano Roosevelt on the 75th anniversary of the battle. So that would have been July 3rd, 1938. And Roosevelt himself came to dedicate the memorial. And when he did, they said it was kind of a Woodstock atmosphere here. That literally, they said around 250,000 people flooded what was the battlefield. And I'll turn around, and there's Gage, but you can see all behind us, that's all battlefield back there. So people came and flooded this whole area to see the dedication, and they had veterans and survivors of the battle that came back. It was a really cool ceremony. And at the top, there's a flame, much akin to the flame at Kennedy's grave that never goes out. So a very moving memorial here. One of many. If you come out here, this whole area is just pockmarked with memorials and statues and markers to commemorate the things that were done here. So we're going to walk up and have a closer look. Alright, so one of the things our guide told us, what you're seeing out there along the horizon is the Appalachian Mountains, and beyond that's the Shenandoah Valley. Now, Lee didn't really want a battle here, per se. He had sent some guys ahead with the explicit instructions, we're not going to do anything until all of the armies have arrived. And he chose Gettysburg because there were 10 roads at the time that led into Gettysburg, and he thought it would be a good meeting place. Day one of the battle was actually here north of town, and it started because a Union soldier saw a group of Confederates riding down the road and took a shot at them. Thus the Battle of Gettysburg began. So when Lee arrived, he found himself already in a battle that he wasn't prepared for. And Lee, even though a brilliant tactician, was missing one key component, and that was his cavalry. His cavalry was not here. And what does the cavalry do for you in the Civil War? They get you information. So Lee had no idea what he was walking into. And if you just look out here and you stand here, you get an idea of kind of a sense of surrealness, I guess, knowing that in 3 days in July 1863, the shape of our country was changed right here. Alright, something cool to note. So we just came from the Eternal Light Memorial, and it is, let's see if I can find it right there. Yeah, right there. Okay, so this is looking back across the battlefield that I showed you, and you've got this string of monuments right here. And if I turn around and show you the other direction, the sun's kind of there, but maybe you can see that the monuments stretch out in a straight line. Okay, the reason for that, and as explained by our guide, is these monuments denote the positions of troops from the Union forces. So each one talks about the where the troops were from. Right here is the monument for the 97th New York Infantry. And they were in a straight line because that was the formation. So back behind me, that's where the Confederate soldiers would have been coming from. And this is, again, day one of the battle. So as we go along these, we'll see how the battle unfolded and how the Confederates were 5 minutes away from winning Gettysburg. Alright, so we are coming through the Seminary College here in Gettysburg, and some of these buildings were actually here. We're not going to stop and get out, but we're just going to kind of show you, like this building right here, that was a building that was here during the battle. The church was not, but this was kind of a key area in the Battle of Gettysburg. One thing we learned is that high ground was of utmost importance during the battle. And when you come out here, you really get a feel for the land and the terrain and how much high ground is of importance. A lot of dips and valleys and hills, and that's what ultimately led to the Union winning this battle, is the high ground. So, but like I said before, the South was within 5 minutes of really dealing a crushing blow to the Union Army. And that happened at Little Round Top, which is where we're headed. Now, one of the more famous, I guess, skirmishes or battles within the Battle of Gettysburg is one called Pickett's Charge, and it occurred right here. Pickett's Charge occurred on day 3 of the battle, July 3rd, 1863. And right here we've got a memorial from North Carolina that kind of looks like the Iwo Jima Memorial. But this is the starting place of where Pickett's Charge was. Now, the Confederates, if you look back here, you can see their cannons all along the wall here. And they started unloading across the field. And they started to bombard the Union artillery. And so the Union artillery started firing back. The thought was the Union at the time had a fishhook battle line, and Lee was trying to find a way to break that line. And he thought if he could get through by defeating the artillery and making them move, that he could go through there. So because there was so much artillery fire between the two sides, at one point the Confederates noticed that the Union artillery had stopped firing. They thought they had succeeded. Unfortunately, the Union Army did two things. They couldn't see where they were shooting at because of all the smoke on the battlefield. And number two, they realized that if they stopped firing, it might just draw the Confederate forces in. So, when the Confederates heard that the artillery from the other side had stopped, Pickett was sent in by Lee. And unfortunately, when they got about 200 yards away, the Union Army unloaded on them and decimated them. Pickett's Charge was not successful in breaking the line. In fact, there's a grove of trees right over there. It's called the high water mark of the Confederacy during the whole Civil War. That's as far as they got. They almost got through the line. And you might think this is where that the South came within 5 minutes of winning the battle. But it's not. Pickett's Charge was definitely brave, but it didn't have the desired effect. Nope. That happened at Little Round Top. And when you come across from Pickett's Charge to just where we just were, you come down here to the end of the road on this little hill, and that's a statue of Robert E. Lee on Traveler. This is the spot from where Lee watched the battle unfold. And he was looking right down onto that very battlefield. And those trees that are right there, right there, oh, right there, those trees are the ones I was mentioning before, the quote-unquote high water mark of the Confederacy. About 200 soldiers made it there. The tour guide said that this day at Gettysburg, all in all, both Union and Confederate, there was a soldier being captured, killed, or wounded every 3 seconds. Total time of fighting. So that puts it into perspective there. And I'm sure they say that that battlefield is haunted. People will go out there and walk on hot summer days. This battle happened July 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, so people will walk out there on the anniversaries and report walking through icy cold patches. We'll get a better look at Lee's statue here. We'll come across here. And we'll get a good look at Lee up there on Traveler. Watching his boys. We stopped here because one of the markers on the side of the road honors the troops from Texas that fought here in Gettysburg. And of course, me being from Texas, have to stop and take a moment with these guys and remember that they were so far away from home fighting for what they believed in. And Texas actually played a very key part in the troops that advanced on those two hills right there. The one on the right, covered in trees, is Big Round Top, and the one on the left that's kind of clear is Little Round Top. And at the kind of the base of Little Round Top is a place called Devil's Den. And it's a very rocky outcropping. But this is where the South came within 5 minutes of winning the war. See, the Union general that was put over here by General Meade, the commander over here, he didn't think that that was such a good place to be. He thought his troops would be better served being way down there, kind of where that car's driving in the red barn beyond it. So it left this exposed. The Confederates knew it and started advancing out of this tree line toward Little Round Top. But there was one Union soldier who saved the day. And we're headed toward Little Round Top so you can get a better vantage point of what happened and talk more about that. But Texas and Alabama led the way and almost won the Battle of Gettysburg. Alright, we have made it to Little Round Top. And this is where the Confederates almost won the war. There was a Union general, General Sickles, who didn't even bother to look at this place to post his troops, and was in fact given orders to post his troops here. But he didn't. Instead, he pulled them out that way. So if you can make out the red barns out in the distance, his line ran from those red barns at a little bit of an angle all the way to those trees right there. This left a big gap. Now when he moved those troops, he left a pretty big gap in the line. And if you look at those trees right there, that's where we saw the Texas Monument. That's where the Texas, Alabama regiments were. And they saw that this hill was unguarded. So they planned to take this hill. This is high ground. But one guy, General Warren, he came to this hill just before the attack took place. And he noticed that the hill was unguarded, so he sent his messenger to bring reinforcements. The reinforcements for the Union Army arrived about 5 or 10 minutes before the advancing Confederate forces got here. And they were able to hold off the Confederates. Pushed them back down into that rocky outcropping right there. That's Devil's Den. It was said that Meade, General Meade, who was leading the Union forces here, had said after the battle that if he had lost Little Round Top, which we currently stand on, he would have retreated. And that would have given the Confederates the victory at Gettysburg. But 5 minutes, and the unsung hero of Gettysburg, Colonel Warren, kept that from happening. It has been absolutely surreal, emotional, and awe-inspiring to walk these grounds and to know how many men gave their lives out here. If you ever get a chance to come out here to Gettysburg, please do. It is something you will never forget.